What is up, everybody? This is Lyle, No Hippie Trucking and Transportation. I am coming at you from Bennett, Colorado, I-70 exit 304. A lot of you guys are familiar with this area. We got the Loves just across the street. I happen to be at the Quick Trip with the Q over here. I was gonna think about stopping at the Loves across the street, but I got a shower this morning in Abilene, Kansas at that Loves, so no need to necessarily go over there. But what I wanted to talk about today was a question that was asked of me a couple weeks ago by a driver that is in TNT training right now. So I figured I would give my 2 cents on this topic, and that is company versus lease. Now, I'm talking about the standard regular lease. I'm not talking about a lease purchase with Prime or anything like that. Just the standard lease, okay? So, obviously advantages to both of these options. But a lot of it just depends on how conservative you are as far as money goes and things like that. And if you really are looking long term. All right, so in terms of company versus lease, I just wanted to start off on the company side. Now, this is kind of random. I wrote some stuff down, but it's really not going to follow any specific format. These are just kind of written down as they came to my head. But the one thing you can do going company is you can learn first. So a lot of the mistakes that lease drivers make, and some of these mistakes put them out of business, are just mistakes that come along with just being a brand new driver. Nobody's going to make mistakes. Nobody thinks they're going to make mistakes until they start making mistakes. And going company kind of alleviates a lot of that pain. You're not getting hit with deductibles and, no paycheck. Well, you might get hit with the no paycheck, but you're going to get paid, downtime and stuff like that. So anyway, you get to learn first. All right. Now, depending on what your family situation is, I don't think that the health care at Prime is really good anyway for a company that size, but the health care, the company subsidized health care is definitely a little bit less on the company side, especially if you're going to be adding family members and kids and things like that. So that's another thing to kind of keep in mind. Another thing that kind of ties in with company benefits, 401k. Now, 401k, I don't know much about this on the Prime side, but let's say, I think the match, if I remember correctly, was about 3%. I could be wrong on that, but it doesn't matter if it's 1%. That's free money right there. And just establishing a 401k, even if there was no match, a lot of younger people don't have the discipline to just save money on their own. This is a very easy way just to start your savings for the future. So 401k, big proponent of definitely setting some money aside. This is an easy way to set aside without even thinking about it. I don't know what the options are, but I suggest the 401k. All right, so again, here's another thing that I really don't know much about, but there is paid vacation or vacation pay. Now, I don't know if you're forced to take a vacation and take that time, or if that time can be translated into money, or how it works, but it's definitely not anything that you're going to get on the lease side. So nothing like taking some time off and getting paid while you do it. Another thing that you're going to get, now you will get it on the lease side, and we'll get into that in a second, is some breakdown pay. Now, some people that are leasing right now are saying, well, you get breakdown pay on the lease. That breakdown pay on the lease is basically enough to make that payment. So in essence, you're making a truck payment, but you're not taking in any cash on that. So breakdown pay, and that's going to be like hotels, all that kind of stuff. So another thing a lot of people don't think about when they go lease, you break down somewhere, now you're going to get some breakdown pay after a certain period of time. I think it's 7 days or something like that, but let's say it's like 2 weeks. Now the breakdown pay might make those 2 lease payments, but now you're paying for a hotel, plus you're not bringing in any money on top of that. So boom. And if I haven't said this earlier, this is going to be Prime specific. I don't know about any other companies and things like that. The next thing I'm talking about is more stable paychecks. So on the lease side, the upside is like extremely high. The downside is extremely low. And in a company driver position, it's going to be pretty stable. The difference between running 2,000 miles and 3,000 miles, let's just do the math. I don't know what average company drivers make at Prime right now, but let's just say 60 cents a mile. You're talking about a $300 difference between 2,000 and 3,000 miles. So very stable pay, or a lot more stable than it will be as far as the lease goes. Never in the negative. So no matter how far you go in the hole, no matter what happens, if you're broke down, whatever the situation is, you're never gonna get that negative paycheck. You're not gonna get that check with the minus in front of it. And trust me, I've seen some big minuses, whether it be my own situation or other drivers telling me about theirs. So definitely an advantage there. And then just less liability in general. If the truck, no matter what happens to the truck, you're really not, you're not really having that additional stress about worrying about what's going on with the truck or things like that. If the truck breaks down, you're going to be handled either way. The engine can fall out of the truck, and it's really no concern of yours. It's going to be handled. So a lot less liability in general. Really, the reason I like this, especially coming out of training, is that you don't have any pressure on you. You're like, when you first come out of drive or training and you're in a company position, all it is running the truck, learning the job. You don't have any other additional stresses as far as breakdowns, how to run a business, savings, any of this kind of stuff. So it's just very liberating in comparison to the lease right off the bat. Now, some of the downfalls to the company position is forced dispatch. Now, there are some people that I know of that are able to turn down loads, and I'm just talking about strictly company positions. I'm not talking about driving for a mini fleet or anything like that, where they do have that ability, or they have the ability to turn it down due to weather, or I heard somebody of a driver turning down a place because they thought that the either shipper receiver was unsafe or whatever. So, but for the most part, they send you a load, you got to take it. Another downfall is hassle in fueling. Some of these fuel stops we get, and it's usually the cheaper ones, are about some bullshit. Like, you don't want to fill up, at least I don't want to fill up. Let me just say it that way. I don't want to fill up at the Pilot in Birmingham. I don't want to fill up at the Pilot in kind of in that North Platte, Nebraska area. If you've been there, you kind of pull around the back of the building, and then you wait along the side. Anyway, there's a bunch of places that are just a hassle to pull in and out of that I just don't go to. And I just will skip those places and find fuel that's maybe in the same ballpark within a few cents and do that. I don't have to worry about calling and opening up different fuel stops for either the reefer or the truck. So basically, just it's a little bit more hassle just to fuel up. And the main reason why I didn't go company wasn't any of these other things so far. It was less potential time off. Now, I just got done taking off like 15 days, so not that much, but I'm going to be staying out until January. So right now it's November, middle of November. I'm going to probably stay out till early mid-January, just because I don't want to come back home and then go back out just to come back home, because the title to this truck is going to be coming in January, and I'm just going to handle all my business out there at one time, and I'll probably take off 21 days, maybe a little bit more, and just don't have those same options as a company driver. Sometimes they'll let you take the time off, but they may ask you to get out of the truck and things like that. So if you got the money, you got the time off. You might have to hear a little bit of bitching from the fleet manager. I haven't had that problem, but I've heard of that. But for the most part, if you got the money, you got the time. And then the last thing I've written down, and I'm not saying that this is everything, and if you're a company driver at Prime, please jump in the comments section, because I want people that are thinking about this to maybe look down in the comments and pick up some things that I missed. But another thing is even slower trucks. I mean, Prime is already too goddamn slow anyway, right? 65 miles an hour. Sometimes that's fine, but that shit's a little embarrassing sometimes. And sometimes it's just outright dangerous, depending on where you're at. But I'm going to say most company drivers are governed at 63 miles an hour. I think it might be 58 on the pedal and 63 or 62, one or the other. On the cruise, I don't really know what those numbers are, but any amount slower than what lease drivers are doing is just too slow in general. Now, I'm not saying I just drive all out. As a matter of fact, my last mile per gallon information just came in. My miles per gallon was 9.83. And the fleet manager average was 8.68. So that's over 1.2 gallons than most of the drivers. And Peterbilt's a little bit different than a Freightliner. I think Freightliners, you can get better fuel economy driving 58 or whatever. Peterbilt's, you got to get up in that 63, 62 area. So I haven't been going balls out. But if I'm in the pack of traffic, I'm going to be going as fast as I can go. I'm not just going to be sitting there being an inconvenience to everybody on the road. All right, so let's talk about the lease side now. Benefits of lease. You have more potential upside. Like I said before, as a company driver, you ain't going to get no $3,500, $4,000 check that I can see. But that is potential on the lease side. You're going to have the potential to make more from detention and things like that, because you're splitting the total amount of detention. Now, one thing I didn't mention about company, if you're a company driver Prime, or maybe put this in. I think company, you get detention regardless if the customer pays it or not. I'm not 100% sure on that, but you do have the potential to make more detention on the lease side. As I said before, flexible time off as far as the lease goes. I mentioned this earlier before. You can fuel wherever you want. Now, on the company side, it really doesn't matter from a cost standpoint. I mean, you do get fuel bonuses and stuff like that, but there's really no huge benefit whether you're, a little bit more money, but not enough to really jump up and down about by hitting those fuel bonuses. And now it is some money. But listen, I just had a fuel stop today. If I was a company driver, I'd have been forced to fuel up to Oakley, TA, and the cheaper fuel was in Abilene, Kansas. So had I been earlier in the day, I'd have fueled up in Abilene and then again in Oakley, Kansas. But You know, these truck stops out near Denver get, you know, pretty full early, so I wanted to get here as soon as possible. So I just got the cheap gas one time. I didn't dollar cost average it down into Denver. One thing, I know a lot of people are out there, you know, like in the Trump situation. One way Trump has really fucked you guys on these taxes, he did it in his first term, was you're not able to write off as much stuff as a company driver. It would have hit me. I came out of the mortgage industry as a W-2. It actually did hit me my last year in the mortgage industry. As a W-2 employee that has a lot of things that I pay out of my own money, that new tax plan that he came out with really screwed me, and screwed you if you're a company driver. So you can't take the same tax write-offs that you used to be able to before. In certain industries you were able to write off. A company driver could almost write off like a 1099 employee as far as their taxes went, as long as they came out of certain industries and things like that. Can't do that anymore. So there's more tax write-offs on the lease side. There's downfall to that too, but that's, you know, that's a totally different video. Another thing is no forced dispatch. Now, one thing I'm going to say is if Prime wants you to run that load, you're going to run that load, or else you're going to deal with the consequences. But for the most part, no forced dispatch. All right. Now, some of the downfalls is this going to be trial by fire. So some of that could be you picked the wrong truck, and the truck's always breaking down, and you're having to deal with that. Or you don't know how to run your clock right. I mean, I was pretty good coming out of training, but even as good as I was, and do not listen to the people in logs, because they understand logs, but they don't understand practical application. If you listen to that shit, I drive 8.5. This was taught in the logs class. If you drive 8.5 hours a day, you'll never run out of hours. You know what? You're never gonna run out of hours anyway. Try it one day. If you have a good fleet manager, he's gonna match them hours with them loads. I digress, but you're gonna be learning logs. You're gonna be learning not to hit shit. You're gonna be learning like a lot of different things when you first come out on the road, and as opposed to company driver, you're gonna be paying for them mistakes yourself, whether it be in making less money in your paycheck because you don't know how to run efficiently, or because you're actually causing damage out there. And you're going to assume all the liability, which is something else I put down here. So, if you watch Trucking Along with Kiersey, she did a video a while back, a few years ago, where she was talking about all the shit she did when she first came out on her own. As a matter of fact, a girl I was in training with, man, she was hitting everything that wasn't nailed down when she came out of training. And had she been a lease, she would have been right out of business right away, just in deductibles alone. You know what? Small thing, lease completion dinner. So you at least have something that you're working for. One thing, if you're thinking about going lease, one thing they do at Prime is every truck has a lease completion date on it. So you don't have to pick a brand new truck and do a 3-year lease. You could pick a truck that you only have to lease for 6 months. You can learn doing those 6 months and kind of mitigate that cost a little bit. But they do have lease completion dinners, and they have lease completion bonuses. So that's always something to look forward to, at least getting some of that recognition. As a matter of fact, that's one thing I think Prime should do for their lease purchase drivers, because when you're done with the lease purchase, you don't get shit. You get the truck, but the dinner would be nice. So that is a bonus for leasing a truck at Prime, is getting a lease completion bonus and the dinner, because I'd be killing them at the dinner. And the last thing I'm going to say is being in a lease at Prime, whether it's a lease purchase or a regular lease, is you can get the feeling of being trapped. Like, Prime has this new camera system coming in. You know, if you're in a 3-year lease and you got a year left, how many people are going to want to walk away from that lease completion bonus if they got 8 months, a year, you know, stuff like that? So it does kind of make you feel a little bit more trapped. You know, that money is getting held over your head just a little bit. And I don't know if that's by design or not, but it certainly does keep people, kind of keep people. So the feeling of being trapped. If there's anything that I missed, please put it in the comments section below. I get a little chance to relax. It's about 14:09, so 2:09 p.m. I deliver tomorrow at 0900. I'm 13 miles away. I just picked up yesterday at Heaven Hill Distillery, so I got a load of, if you're familiar with Heaven Hill, you know, we got the Larceny bourbon, we got the Heaven Hill bottled in bond back there. I got as a matter of fact, let me see what I got. Man, I'm telling you, there's some good stuff we got in here. Larceny, Elijah Craig. We actually have a barrel back there. I didn't know they actually did rum and tequila. We got some of that back there. And what I didn't know that they had was Black Velvet. That is probably the worst. That is probably the worst alcohol I've ever had in my life. Black Velvet, and I had no idea that Heaven Hill Distillery did that stuff. And I'm gonna tell you, if you get a logo in Heaven Hill, man, I'm telling you, I missed that entrance twice. Once going one direction and once going the opposite direction. So if you happen to get that logo out there, pay attention. It is not the easiest place in the world to hit. But hey, I do appreciate you guys stopping by. No Hippie Trucking and Transportation. As always, comment, subscribe, and I'm out.